Let's go ahead and welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and begin the House Administration Education Committee. Welcome, committee. Appreciate it. We do have a full committee. We've got some confirmations we're going to do first, and then we got a number of bills to go through, and then we have a great presentation by OREA. I said in on that the other day, and I think you'll really find it interesting. They do great work through the comptroller's office. But let's start out, Madam Clerk. Would you call the roll?
Representatives Baum, Boso, Butler, Sapiki, Fritz, Gant, Gillespie, Haston, Hurt, Lafferty, Love, McKenzie, Parkinson, Reagan, Ritchie, Stevens, Warner, Vice Chairman Slater, Chairman White. Mr.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go to Representative Fritz. Would you open us up? Members, and for our audience, we like to begin our committee each time in a word of prayer. We're making decisions on the best interests of our children, and we think we need that wisdom. So, Representative Fritz. Thank you very, very much. Members, anybody have a recognition announcement you'd like to make before we start with the program? See no hands raised. Okay, members of the committee, first we're going to start out with our confirmations. They will be on a consent calendar, so we'll take one vote at the end, and we will go bring them up like we did last week and give them a chance to say a few words. You can ask a question if you would like to, and then we will go on to the next person. When I call your name after you, come on and start occupying the first 6 seats. Let's, Mr. Dan Strasser, if you would come up and start on my right, your left. Second, let's, Mr. Mario Duarte. Thank you. Then let's have Garnett DeCosimo. The fourth person, Lauren Smith. Ms. Christine Richards. And Mr. Tom Grisham. We will have 9 altogether. First, let me just start out by saying before we begin is that we do appreciate y'all's willing to serve in our great institutions across the state for whatever entity that is before us today. Thank you. We owe you a great deal for doing that. Members, item number 1, we're on House Joint Resolution 747. This is for the confirmation of the appointment of Mr. Dan Strasser to the UT Martin Advisory Board. Now, when y'all recognize you, if you will, make sure your mic is on and just state your name and position for the AV record. Mr. Strasser, you may begin. Members, we are out of session.
Thank you. I am Dan Strasser, under your consideration for the UT Martin Advisory Board. Appreciate the honor of your consideration. Grew up in Middle Tennessee on a dairy farm, have a long agriculture connection and history, but because of UT Extension was led to a 4-year college, and that ended up being UT Martin. And because of UT Extension and all the 4-H programs and background I was able to have with that and connections, ended up at UT Martin, graduated with an agriculture education degree. Met my wife while I was there, one of the best things of the school experience for me. And she was also a graduate of there in the business school. And now we also have one daughter who is a graduate and teaching school. I have another daughter who is a senior there right now. Actually, technically she's in Italy because they're doing a study abroad through the University of Tennessee at Martin. So she is studying in Siena, Italy to be an ag engineer. have 4 more children. Hopefully, they'll be up there as well. We'll see how that goes, but they are being educated in the high school and elementary years of their lives, and I look forward to serving on this board if that's with your approval. Looking forward to giving back to my university and being a part of the oversight there and working with the Chancellor Freeman, who I've got a lot of admiration for. I've gotten to meet him, and he had big shoes to fill following Dr. Carver, but we're glad that he's there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And we do have our UT chancellors. I know they're roaming the halls today. Is our new UT Martin chancellor, is he present by chance? Anyway, he's going to do a great job. I had the privilege of meeting him. Members, anybody would like to question? Representative Warner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the committee members and to Dan. Dan's family, he's from Chapel Hill, where I'm from. Dan and his family moved to Chapel Hill, I guess, when he was a very young man. I think he's got 4 or 5 brothers and sisters that I grew up with there in a small town. And if you looked up the definition of family in the Webster's Dictionary, there would be a picture of the Strausser family out beside the definition of family. That's how good of folks they are. They've been a great asset to our community, and I'm glad that Dan's here in front of us today, and he will make a great choice for this board, or it'd be a great choice for him to be on this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Warner, and my apologies. I meant to recognize you to introduce our first guest, and I jumped over that. Thank you. Members, anyone have a question? It's pronounced Mr. Strausser, right?
That's correct.
Strausser. Okay, make sure I had that right. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Let's now go to our next confirming, House Joint Resolution 748. This is a confirmation for the appointment of Mario Duarte. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And for the UT Chattanooga Advisory Board. And is Representative Vidal in here? We were going to have him recognize him. He's from that area. Okay, Mr. Duarte, you are recognized to the committee.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for all of the members. It's a truly honor to be here in consideration for the advisory board for the UTC. As you mentioned, my name is Mario Duarte. I live in Uruguay, Tennessee, right north of Chattanooga. Along my wife, Julie, and my son, Santi, who are actually here in the room also, we have called this home for the last 14 years, and we like it so much that I think we're going to call it home for good. I am a graduate of the MBA program at UTC. I work at Volkswagen, and I've worked at Volkswagen for all those 14 years that I've lived in Uruguay. I'm responsible for the learning, leadership development, and workforce development programs and department, not just for Chattanooga, but actually for all of the USA operations, including sales and marketing, distribution centers, and so on. I have 25 years of experience in that field, mainly in the automotive industry. And the last thing to mention is UTC is definitely very close to my heart, not just because I'm an alumni, but because I have witnessed the impact of the university in the last 14 years in the community. And I look forward, with your approval, to be part of that board and support that.
Thank you very much. Committee members, any questions? We have Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Duarte, thank you so much for your willingness to serve this great state. Welcome. We love that. And I want to thank you for your work at Volkswagen. We have a distribution center in Roane County. We appreciate that investment. And I think all cars ought to be made in Tennessee, so thank you for what you've done there.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I also see on your resume you spent 3 years in San Antonio.
Yes, I did. So before working for Volkswagen, I worked for a different Asian OEM automotive company, and I work in San Antonio. Before that, I was in Pittsburgh, and I had a chance to also live in California, so I've been all around, mainly in the automotive industry.
Thank you. The reason I bring up my daughter and son-in-law live in San Antonio,
Yeah.
so great place. Thank
Yes.
you. Anyone else? Recognition. Thank you very much, Mr. Duarte. Item number 3, House Joint Resolution 758. This is for the confirmation of the appointment of Garnett DeCosimo at the University of Tennessee Chattanooga Advisory Board. Is Mr. Greg Martin, Representative Greg Martin, in the room? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and recognize you for your comments, sir.
Okay, there it is. Well, thank you for having me here this afternoon. I'm sitting here and under consideration for the UTC Advisory Board. My name is Garnet DeCosimo. I grew up in Chattanooga, grew up around UTC. I've always been just amazed at how well a town and a university can grow together, and it's been wonderful watching it happen for the decades that I was in Chattanooga, and now that I'm back, to see how they've continued to do so. I'm a trained accountant. Spent 3 years in public accounting, working with large Fortune 100 companies in the audit practice. After that, I moved to Washington, D.C., spent several years in the Senate up there working for Senator Corker and Senator Mike Enzi from Wyoming, where I had the privilege to work with him and Senator Lamar Alexander's team on the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee as we work towards the reauthorization of the Perkins Career and Technical and Education Act. That was a wonderful experience for me. Got to really understand the importance of CTE or vocational education. Part of that reauthorization was making sure that we gave more authority to LEAs, to schools, to expand their programs so they reflected the needs of their communities, encouraging them to work better with their communities. And luckily in Tennessee, we've got an administration and department that has embraced that. And then after that, was able to move back down to Nashville, where I spent about 2.5 years in Governor Lee's office, worked in his policy office until I took over his federal relations portfolio in March of 2020, where I was pretty much all COVID all the time, as many of you, I'm sure, remember from that period. And it was about last year that I moved back to Chattanooga to work with family. Took the opportunity to join our family's firm. We have a financial advisory firm where we work with business owners. So I'm looking forward to being able to use both a public policy background as well as a private sector background to hopefully advise the chancellor, the president of the system, as well as we work through and provide recommendations on the budget and the strategic plan. So thank you for your consideration, and thank you for all you do to support our state's universities.
Members, anyone have a question? Representative Reagan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming by my office earlier. I want to echo what I said there, that your service is greatly appreciated. We understand that the compensation is not there, but you are stepping forward to do a valuable job for our state and our universities. I was hoping to get all the university people up there at one time, so I'm going to ask a question and ask each of you to respond, not just the gentleman who was just speaking. Our university system sometimes, it appears, to those of us in the legislature, seem to think that they're totally independent of the government, despite the fact that we at the state level give them all money. So my question to you is, under our state constitution, as well as the laws that we pass up here, do you understand that the board of directors or board of trustees that you're sitting on are responsible for keeping the university in compliance with both constitution and state law? You may go first.
Yes, sir.
You recognize?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. Anyone else? Mr. DeCosimo, do you have relatives in the Memphis area? I have some friends down there, DeCosimos. Do you have any relatives?
I've got a lot of relatives. I'm trying to think which of them are in Memphis currently. I know that some have lived there previously. I don't think I don't recall that I've got any living there currently.
Okay.
I have a cousin who married a woman from Memphis, though.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I go to church with some DeCosimos. Members, we're on item number 3. Anyone else have a question for Mr. DeCosimo? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Members, we're now going to items 4, 5, and 6. These is the confirmation for the appointments to our Public Charter School Commission. Since I have the bio on this, the first one, House Joint Resolution 766 for Lauren Smith for the Public Charter School Commission. Let me give you a little background on Ms. Smith. Lauren has worked in the public education space in Tennessee with a particular focus on the charter schools since 2013. She's currently a consultant in the nonprofit and philanthropic sectors. She has managed a range of projects with organizations including SCORE, thank you very much, great organization, the Tennessee Department of Education, Communities in Schools, and Building Impact. Previously, Lauren served as a founding chief of staff for Valor Collegiate Academies, where she helped launch 3 public charter schools and managed hiring, development, and external affairs for the organization. Prior to joining Valor, Lauren was the advocacy director for the Tennessee Charter School Center. She's a native of, is that Abbeville or Abbeville?
It's Abbeville.
Abbeville, okay. I've seen it when I go down to Chattanooga, but I never knew how to pronounce it. A native of Abbeville, Alabama, Lauren earned a bachelor's degree at Auburn University and a master's of philosophy and education from the University of Cambridge, Queens College. Lauren and her husband, Brad, live in Nashville with their 3 young daughters. Ms. Smith, you are now recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to you all. Thank you so much for considering me today. I don't have too much to add to that bio, except that I am passionate about public education. As a mother of 3 young daughters, one who will be starting kindergarten next year, and also as someone who's worked in schools for about 5 years, I think I bring a unique perspective, and just am really passionate about ensuring that every child in our state has an opportunity to attend a high-quality school. So thank you so much for having me today and for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Representative Parkinson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the one we've been waiting on. I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm just messing with you. It's good to see you, and welcome back. Thank you, sir.
Representative Sapicki? Representative Love?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to echo the sentiments of Representative Parkinson. Good to see you back here again.
Nice to see you both. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to ask a question of Ms. Smith? Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to item number 5, House Joint Resolution 767 for the confirmation of Ms. Christine P. Richards to the Public Charter School Commission. I may add, I've known Ms. Richards and her husband for a long time. You were the chief legal counsel for our great company FedEx for many, many years, and now I would say retired, but I think you're probably working more than ever now. Let me give you a little bit of background on Ms. Richards. She's retired executive VP, general counsel, and the secretary of FedEx Corporation, where her responsibilities included compliance with international, federal, state, and local government regulations and all international and domestic legal, security, and government affairs. Well, you never got home, did you?
No, sir.
Ms. Richards holds a bachelor's degree from Bucknell University and a JD from Duke University. She serves on the board of directors of Spirit Airlines and on the board of directors of the West Tennessee Megasite, the location of Ford Blue Oval City. She's also serves on the Shelby County Retirement Board and Investment Committee as the Audit Committee Chairman and is a director of the Tennessee State Collaborative in Reforming Education, or SCORE. She has served on the Tennessee State Public Charter School Commission since its formation and was elected chairman in 2023. And with that, Ms. Richards, thank you so much. And as I've told you before, I appreciate you taking your time and experience. This charter commission, as I've pointed out, is very, very important, and we have to have highly qualified people. So thank y'all, and thank you. You may make a few comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Chris Richards, and I am honored to have served 1 term on the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission. We have endeavored with the launch of this commission to fully meet all of the expectations of the legislature set forth in statute and regulation with respect to the authorizing of charter schools across the state of Tennessee. We are committed as a group, and I am personally committed to the provision of quality charter opportunities to all families in the state of Tennessee who want access to those opportunities. We've got more work to do. I am honored to be considered for a 2nd term, and thank you very much for your consideration today.
Thank you so very much. Well, we're honored to have your background and experience working for us in the Charter Commission. Members, anyone have a question, comment you would like to address to Ms. Richards? Seeing none, thank you so very much. We're now going to go to item number 6, House Joint Resolution 768. This is for the confirmation of the appointment of Tom Grisham on the Public Charter School Commission, and I'm going to go to Representative Gant to make the introduction.
Thank you, Chairman. This is certainly a privilege for me to introduce this gentleman. Tom Griscom. With more than 40 years in the field of communications, Tom has experience in media, business, government, and politics, and consulting services. He has been a writer, editor, and publisher of the Chattanooga Times Free. Now, what I'm about to mention is what's so intriguing about Tom. He has served as press secretary for our U.S. Senator Howard Baker, and our president under President Ronald Reagan as our communications director. And there's not many times you see somebody that comes before us with that credential in their bio. So, Tom, it's a privilege to have you serve in this capacity. And I'll continue on here to brag about Tom a little bit more as well. But those two things right there sets him apart and distinguishes him as very qualified for this, to continue in this capacity. Tom, at R.J. Reynolds, he served as Executive VP of Worldwide External Relations, Senior VP at Powell Tate Public Affairs, and the Chair of Excellence in Communication at UT Chattanooga. His community service includes the Tennessee Board of Regents, the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission, the Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce, River City Company, Chattanooga Library Board, and the Howard Baker School of Public Policy and Public Affairs at UT Knoxville. He attended public schools in Hamilton County and holds an undergraduate degree from UT Chattanooga. Additionally, he served our country 8 years in the U.S. Army, holding the rank of captain. And, Mr. Chairman, I present to you Mr. Tom for his remarks. I yield to you, Tom.
Thank you, Representative Gant. Mr. Grisham, you are recognized.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and particularly thank you, Representative Gant, for the introduction. I'm Tom Griscom. I live in Chattanooga. I have served as the first chair of the Charter Commission. I'm happy now to say that Chris Richards has assumed that responsibility. I get to be a former chair. I'm going to echo part of what Chris shared with you all. When we came here 4 years ago, we were asked to look at what could be done to pick up what the State Board of Education has been doing since 2002. And that was to become an organization focused on authorizing quality public schools, another choice for students in our state to be able to have a good education. I think we have worked hard over the 4 years that we've been on this board. It was a challenging time to start up a commission and get it working during COVID, but we did it. And now that we are out fully functioning, I think you will see the type of schools that we are authorizing. The fact that we now have 13 schools that are part of the Charter Commission, and next year we anticipate that will grow even more. We have 4,700 students today, and we expect to have 8,700 next year. So there's a lot of work, as Chris said, to be done. I appreciate the opportunity to have served before. And also the opportunity to be here today to ask you all for your support again for another term on the Charter Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grisham. Thank you very much. Members, anyone have a comment or question, address? Representative Warner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Richards. Did I get the name wrong?
Griscom.
Grissom. I just want to thank you for your service. It's an honor for you to be here in front of us today. Thank you.
Anyone else, members? Okay, well, thank you very much. What I'm going to do is let y'all go back to your seats. Don't go away. We still got to do the confirmation. And I'd like to bring up items 7, 8, and 9. Let's bring up Mr. Stephen Smith for the confirmation to the Middle Tennessee State University Board. And then item number 8, let's bring up Mr. William S. Jones for confirmation to the Middle Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. And then Cameron Rudd for confirmation to the Tennessee Technological University Board of Trustees. And members, so the item number 7 is for the confirmation of House Joint Resolution 769 by Mr. Stephen Smith. Representative Baum, I believe you have the honors.
Thank you, Chairman White. And before I get started, I want to recognize Dr. Sidney McPhee. He is president of MTSU, and he's here with us today along with his team. I'll just mention that MTSU is the destination for more Middle Tennessee high school graduates than any other college. In fact, if you take all of the Nashville folks that have a college degree, about 1 in 5 of them went to MTSU. So we are educating Middle Tennesseans and all Tennesseans. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Stephen Smith. He is an MTSU undergraduate. He was a pitcher at MTSU and has since been inducted into the MTSU Hall of Fame. I thought that would be of interest to this committee because we've got a couple of athletes on the committee. Actually, we've got a lot of athletes on the committee. We have 2 members who were professional athletes on this committee. And we're all also interested in politics, and so I thought I would mention that Stephen Smith served as finance co-chair of Lamar Alexander's 1996 and 2000 presidential campaigns. He served on as finance chair for Bill Frist, his leadership fund, and for Senator Bill Hagerty. This is actually a reappointment. Mr. Smith currently serves on the MTSU Board of Trustees. He has served in that capacity since 2017 as chair of the board. And one thing I can tell you about him is he has been very passionate about ensuring that we teach our students at MTSU the kinds of applied skills that they will need in order to get a job. We've got a shortage of labor, and MTSU is supplying workers, the workforce to our region. So I'm pleased to introduce you to Mr. Stephen Smith.
Mr. Smith, you are recognized.
Out of respect for your time, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of athletic statistics. One that I'm very proud of, though, extremely proud of, is our athletes at MTSU have the highest graduation rate of any public institution in the United States. Not Tennessee, but in the United States of America, our athletes graduated a higher percentage. That doesn't just happen. That's because of the leadership of our president and our board and our athletic department. I'm very proud of that. I graduated from MTSU when I was 60 years old, but I'm a first generation college graduate, very passionate about the fact that we're blue collar and we're turning out people who can make a living. I hope we get a nuclear scientist every now and then, but we're turning out somebody that can make a living. And I'm proud of it and appreciate the opportunity to appear before you and to serve you, and appreciate the support that the administration gives our board to give it advice and vision. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Sapicki?
Thank you for your service on this reappointment. I'd like to ask you a hypothetical question. It's very important to me how you answer this. If you were made aware of as a trustee that at your university, hypothetically, a professor was persecuting a student based off their race, their religious views, or their political views, to the point where it could jeopardize the academic outcome of that student if they did not conform to that professor's views, would you tell this committee, would you take action, and let's make sure the president or the chancellor knew about that to take corrective action?
Mr. Smith?
Our president wouldn't tolerate that. The president works for us, works for me. I don't mess with classes Charlie teaches. So I don't have knowledge of that, but our president wouldn't tolerate that, and the board wouldn't tolerate that from him.
Your follow-up, Representative?
So just to be clear here, you would say that you would address the issue through your chancellor, your president, and just pass that information on to make sure they would
Yes.
take action? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Representative Lafferty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recently, there was an article in the Tennessee Star paper that talked about a newly created course of study in the journalism school there at MTSU. And I believe it was called social justice, journalism justice, journalistic social justice, something along those lines. I read the article, then I looked at some tweets and some Facebook posts from the instructor that's going to be teaching it. And it seems pretty obvious to me that there is a strong political slant in her views and potentially in her teachings. I've not been in the classroom, obviously. I wouldn't want I don't want any of our professors across the state teaching political ideology one way or the other. I want our professors enhancing our kids' knowledge base, their ability to think for themselves, their ability to discern what information is useful, credible, beneficial. Oh, thank you. I'm not sure that a class in social justice activism journalism meets those criteria, or the criteria that we talked about just a few minutes ago during the introduction about we are turning out people to be ready for the workforce. If somebody coming through that class isn't able to get a job in journalism, I'm not sure what else they're qualified for at that point except for activism. Would you care to comment?
I'm not familiar with what you're speaking of, but I'll certainly get with our president and get back to you. We have a lot of elective courses, but 2 courses that you have to take if you graduate in MTSU are 2 semesters of American history or U.S. history. And you can't substitute that class for one of those. The Ivies, you have to take those too, but dance instruction might substitute for that. So we have a stated goal that we want to be the most patriotic school in America. We recognize a veteran at the beginning of every meeting. I don't think any other university does that. And we pledge allegiance at each time. So I'm not familiar with what you're speaking of, because we have hundreds of courses. But there are elective courses that I don't know anything about. But that's what we pay the president to do. And if you'd like, I'd be happy to look at that and get back to you.
I would very much appreciate.
Follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would very much appreciate that. And this is actually a concentration. And to me, that doesn't mean a whole lot. But in the world of academia, apparently that's a pretty big deal. So I look forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Representative Parkinson, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for jumping in this water. I truly appreciate you. You remind me of a coach. I don't know why. Did you ever coach?
Yes, sir. I'm coaching every day.
There you go. Hey, believe it or not, you're coaching right now. Believe it or not. So I just want to echo some of the statement that my colleague before me just spoke about political slants and ideologies at our university. But I'm going to come from a different angle. It's interesting that that's being said here, because when your bios were being read, they mentioned everything that you've done politically, and for me, that does not qualify you for your political experience. Has absolutely nothing to do with your duties of being on this board. And thank God that you guys are aptly qualified to serve on this board based on your accolades outside of what you've done politically. And so and this may not be directed at you all. Maybe it's directed at the members. I don't understand why we are announcing who you've worked for politically when you're being appointed to a board for a university. And your qualifications stand on their own. Your political experience has absolutely nothing to do with why we're appointing you. And so thank you for being qualified, right? And I hope that, we will stay away from politics and what party you're in, what party you've served, who you've served, in politics, and focus on what you're going to do for these children and for our universities. Thank you again for being willing to serve. I truly appreciate you.
Thank you, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to kind of tag on to that, as we've sat here today, the following elected leaders have been you all, between the Public Charter Schools Commission and the institutions of higher education. They've worked for President Reagan, Senators Alexander, Corker, Haggerty, and Lee. And we've heard those, and we've heard all the political aspects, which I encourage people to get active and stay active politically, whichever way your leanings are. But all those leanings are to one direction, which is okay, which is perfectly okay, because as my colleague said, it has absolutely nothing to do, or should have absolutely nothing to do, with the service that you're doing for your alma mater, that you threw probably a whole bunch of strikes and a few balls over your period of time. So I just thank you for your commitment to both academic, athletic, and now public service. And I would ask that as you go forward, you everyone just say, let's get that stuff, those ideologies that they think was slant, because I have no concern with you're going to take a board seat and take it to somehow co-opt the university into certain kind of political leanings. That's just not the way higher ed works. And as you said earlier, you will get with your great president if you heard of anything going on, because that's your employee and that's your job to manage your employee. And you all are doing an excellent job on that. So I just wish that we continue to find people like you, these jewels that have been very politically active because they care about their country and care about their state, but not take those political leanings into this job. So thank you again for your volunteer service to this great state. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Representative Love, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the applicants, and of course to my colleagues and those who'll be watching. One of the unfortunate things is that we live in a society where there are injustices done. And one of the most difficult things we have to grapple with is how do we respond to that? And I'm reminded of the fact that if it were not for media, most of the world would not have known what was happening in Selma, Alabama. But media shined a light on it. And in some places where we see that things are not being done right, it's the exposure through journalism that tells the story. I just happened to Google social justice journalism, and Northwestern University has a course that says, telling the stories of people who are disenfranchised, vulnerable, or marginalized, yet resilient and courageous. I would hope that we would all be courageous and resilient in times of our lives when we may be disenfranchised, we may be marginalized. I think part of the tenet here we have as legislators is to lift up those who are often left behind. Part of our belief here is that we improve the lives of people. And so, like my colleagues, I thank you for your service. And I wish you well in your endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, committee. That's the only one I had on my list. Mr. Smith, thank you so very much for your time and for your willing to serve again on the MTSU board. Members, let's go to item number 8, House Joint Resolution 771. This is for the confirmation of the appointment of Mr. William S. Jones for the Middle Tennessee State University Board. And let me also say before you begin, President McPhee, thank you for being here. I didn't see you last week when you were sitting in the room. Thank you for your work down at MTSU. I remember years, I think I told you this last time, I wanted to be a pilot a long time ago, so I came down and got my pilot license, the instructional part, and y'all doing a great job, and that's expanding like gangbusters right now, I understand. So great aeronautical school down at MTSU. Representative Bond, would you do the honors of introducing Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Chairman White. I'd like to introduce you all next to Bill Jones. It's my honor to introduce you to him. He is a native of Murfreesboro. He is a graduate of MTSU. He currently serves on the Jennings A. Jones College of Business Advisory Committee, and he's an area executive for Pinnacle Financial Partners. He's served in a number of capacities in the Murfreesboro and Rutherford County community, including as chair of the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce, and he has served on the MTSU Foundation. It's my honor to be part of this nomination process, but I want to add one thing to it. Bill Jones was my nominee to the Industrial Development Board when I served on the Rutherford County Commission. He went on to be confirmed and served with distinction and is still on that board today. He's probably been on that board for over 10 years. And so he did our community proud back then, and so I'm pleased to be able to introduce him to you today to serve as a new member on the MTSU Board of Trustees.
Mr. Jones, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also would be remiss if I didn't note that Dr. Baum is my representative, so I'm pleased to be one of your constituents. Also would be remiss not to recognize Representative Stevens, who he and I have worked on several things in Rutherford County through the years, so it's always good to see you, Representative Stevens. As Dr. Baum mentioned, I'm a 1982 graduate of Middle Tennessee State University, have lived in Murfreesboro for 61 years, and this is really pretty simple for me as far as my reason for wanting to serve. When I attended MTSU, that experience gave me absolutely everything I needed if I was willing to take it to be successful personally and professionally, and hopefully to contribute to my community. And if I can help in that regard for one other person, that's good enough for me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Committee, any questions of our Representative Lafferty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I won't go through my question like I did just a moment ago, but I just wanted to ask, well, two things. First, thank you to you all and to the group that preceded you for being willing to step up and do this. I know it's not a thing that you get a lot of applause for, recognition for, so sincerely, thank you for being willing to do this. But I would ask, please, if you wouldn't mind also exploring that article a little bit. I'd love to have it on your radar since you all are the employees, are the ultimate employer of the folks there at the university. I just felt like it was something that you guys should be aware of, so thank you.
Thank you. Representative Sapicki? Chairman Sapicki?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and same hypothetical to be fair about if something comes across your desk about a professor and students persecuting on their political views or race, I'm assuming your actions would be as you would take action on that and make sure we get the thing rectified. Is that correct?
Correct. If anything's going on that's perceived as detrimental to faculty, students, staff, that would be a concern of mine that I would raise with Dr. McPhee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Let's now go to item number 9, House Joint Resolution 786. This is for the confirmation of the appointment of Cameron Rudd to the Tennessee Technological University Board of Trustees. And I'm going to ask Chairman Williams if you'll come up and make the honors of the introduction.
Thank you, Chairman members. It's my honor to introduce Mr. Cameron Rudd. But before we get started, I thought I'd also note that President Oldham is also with us today. And for some reason, his lovely bride, the First Lady of Tennessee Tech, has drawn the short straw and had to come to Nashville with him today. Carrie Oldham is here with us today, so happy to have them here as well. I want to take an opportunity to introduce you to Mr. Rudd. He is a graduate from Tennessee Tech University with a mechanical engineering degree. That wasn't stringent enough. If you're a mechanical engineer, you know it's a pretty tough row to hoe at Tech, but he also decided to get a bachelor's of arts degree in German. He was a part of the German club there as well, was active in many campus things there. Upon graduation, though, he used his mechanical engineering background and his German in order to go work for a family-owned door opening company called Horman, which they found themselves in Chicago many years ago. But thankful for us, Horman decided to consolidate a lot of their manufacturing facilities, and his first trek back home began when they opened that new facility in White County just a few years ago. He and his wife reside in the Upper Cumberland, and they have an opportunity to stay involved with their church, and he has an opportunity to come and speak at Tennessee Tech's campus quite a bit since he's so close to home. He does have his wife Miranda here with him today, and so it's my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Cameron Rudd. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mr. Rudd, you're now recognized.
Thank you. I was asked to make a few statements and sort of argument for my own confirmation, so I thought of three main points, really. The first thing is I have a genuine affection for the institution at Tennessee Tech University. My first day at Tech was on August 23rd, 1999. I remember that day very, very well because that's the day that I met my wife at the University Center. I ended up being there for 6 years because I did get 2 degrees, which was a little bit more work than I maybe signed up for to begin with. Ended up graduating, went to work for a German company, and then ended up in Chicago for quite a little stretch. So the other thing that I would like to say is that my educational background, because I have an engineering degree and a German degree, I think it brings a very unique perspective to the Board of Trustees. I am by far the least qualified engineer on the Tennessee Tech Board of Trustees, I can assure you. But I was very active on both ends of campus. And one of the things that I am concerned about with the advances in technology in our society in general is that we are losing the humanity in it a lot of times. And I think that the German degree gave me a lot of perspective in that space, and I would like to be able to commit a little bit in that area. And then the third thing that I'd like to say is the little detour that we took for 13 years into the state of Illinois really gave me a completely different perspective. The state of Illinois runs very, very different than the state of Tennessee. And I became an ambassador for this state, had an opportunity to tell people the great things about the meaning and the purpose behind the stars on the flag, the 3 grand divisions of the state, and all of that entails. And it really gave me a completely different type of perspective. The government structure in the state of Illinois is very much a collectivist government. Everything, all of the power derives itself from Springfield. And in Tennessee, we have kept much closer to the general principles of our economy, or of our government, where we have vested the power in the nested representative bodies throughout the state. And that puts a great burden on the average citizen. The average citizen has to be willing to engage and be involved in their community. And we are much more engaged and involved in our community here than we ever were in Illinois. More involved in our church. I sat on the board of directors at the local Chamber of Commerce. And then when I was asked to serve on this board, I said, sure. I want to give back to the institution. I want to give back to my community. And that's why I'm willing to serve on the board. And I would hope that you would see fit to confirm me into this position. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rudd. Very well said. That's why Tennessee is #1 in every category. Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And gentlemen, to be fair, I posed a question to the previous 3 that were before us, and I'll preface it with the same note. Sometimes it seems our universities occasionally view themselves as something other than part of our state and want to do things differently than we have visions for them. So as board members of trustees, are you committed to ensuring that your university, and through your supervision of the staff, is going to adhere to our Constitution and our state laws?
You're recognized.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for those words. You're absolutely right. As you are blessed with skills and ability to graduate and to do well, it definitely is incumbent upon the community to just to continue the process. Without it, we will implode. So thank you for your willingness to serve. And I'll say that you're about to serve with a great man, a gentleman that I say help raise. He's a little younger than I am. Fred Larry from Knoxville he really is an outstanding human being, and he's done a lot of great things for the university. But close to home in my district, he and his family foundation has just been it's been a huge change in just a lot of things from our alma mater, high school, which 3 years ago was dealing with all kind of crises that he's helped balance that out. So, and he's done the same thing at Tennessee Tech. So just tell him I said hello, and you're going to serve a great university. So thank you. And I think he's mechanical engineering too. I
Yeah,
think.
he is. I've only had an opportunity to meet him once. We were both given awards by Tennessee Tech University. I was the young alumni of the year. He was the alumni of the year, and I can only
say old.
And I can only say I was very thankful that I gave my speech first, because. So.
Thank you. Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to all three gentlemen, thank you for willingness to serve this great state, and specifically to Tennessee Tech. We get the privilege each year to send our boys state there. And so just a thank you from your American Legion post. I'm at Post 50 in Rockwood, but appreciate you're all opening up your campus to help serve our state through the Boys State program. I so appreciate that. And as we get closer to this nuclear renaissance that's coming, in my working career, some of the finest engineers I knew were Tennessee Tech folks. So I would love to engage at some point in time with y'all about how we get conversations more engaged with Tennessee Tech as well, and just how we can. East Tennessee's the energy capital of the world, I'm convinced, and Tennessee Tech's a big part of that, even though you're on the plateau.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, that's all I had. And before anybody else have a comment or question before I go to the confirmation process? Say none. Okay, members, for those of you who went back and sat down, we're back in session. For the clerk's satisfaction and also for the Constitution, let me just go and read it. As I read your name, would you please stand up and come back up front for the confirmation process? We're on House Joint Resolution 747 for the confirmation of Dan Strasser, UT Martin Advisory Board. Item number 2, House Joint Resolution 748 for the confirmation of the appointment of Mario Duarte, UT Chattanooga Advisory Board. Then we have item 3, House Joint Resolution 758 for the confirmation of the appointment of Garrett DeCosimo for the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga Advisory Board. Item 4, House Joint Resolution 766 for the confirmation of the appointment of Lauren Smith for the Public Charter School Commission. Item 5, House Joint Resolution 767 for the confirmation of the appointment of Christine P. Richards, Public Charter School Commission. Item number 6, House Joint Resolution for the 768 for the confirmation of Tom Griscom, Public Charter School Commission. Item 7, House Joint Resolution 769 for the confirmation of the appointment of Stephen Smith, the Middle Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. Item 8, House Joint Resolution 771 for the confirmation of the appointment of William S. Jones to Middle Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. And item number 9, House Joint Resolution 786 for the confirmation of the appointment of Cameron Rudd, Tennessee Technological University Board of Trustees. And members, that's the 9 members that we're here to confirm. Do I have any objection to calling for the question? Do I have a motion and a second? Okay, without objection, all those in favor of the confirmations that are before us indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You are duly confirmed by the House Education Administration Committee. Thank you all so very, very much for your time. Okay, members, we're going to jump right into our legislation. First up is House Bill 1191 by Chairman Williams. You are recognized, sir. You've got a motion and a second. I believe you have an amendment.
Yes, sir. Drafting code 012326.
Got a motion and a second. That does rewrite the bill, members. Would you like to go ahead and add it to the bills so we can have proper discussion? Without objection, all those in favor of adding 12326 to House Bill 1191 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You're now recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Chairman and members. House Bill 1191 is legislation that is focused on addressing one of the biggest challenges facing charter schools and charter schools in existing facilities across the state. Charter schools in Tennessee do not receive local capital dollars for facilities and must instead use operating dollars to meet their facilities needs. There are school buildings that are currently vacant or underutilized across the state, but often the access to these buildings can be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to utilize. Instead, charter schools in Tennessee must finance, locate, build, update, renovate facilities to use as their school buildings. What this legislation would do would propose a more explicit definition of vacant and underutilized facilities and allow charter school to petition the comptroller's office for an audit of vacant or underutilized facilities in our systems. It also allows charter schools to access vacant or underutilized facilities at or below fair market value. This option would provide charter schools with access to space that was designed for school use and financed by taxpayer dollars, but now underutilized. It also requires LEAs and charter schools to publicly report on the capacity and use of all their buildings so there is more transparency around those buildings and their use. It reiterates that charter schools and public schools are subject to the same tax exemption all public schools currently receive. It requires LEAs in at least one charter school operates to give a charter school the first right of refusal to purchase those facilities. Just because those facilities are given a first right of refusal, it doesn't guarantee a sale or a transaction. The charter, thank you. With that, Chairman and members, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Representative Towns is in the room. No. Okay, members, with that explanation from Chairman Williams, Representative Sapicki, you are recognized.
Thank you. Chairman, thank you for working on this bill. I really appreciate it. Just want to make sure on the record we clarify one thing, that if a charter school purchases a building at below a fair market value, and they occupy the school, and then something happens and that charter school would close, then the LEA would have the opportunity to buy that facility back at below a fair market value.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Few questions. They'll be hopefully, I think, fairly quick. Isn't there a $15 million appropriation by the state for charter schools for acquiring facilities?
You're recognized, Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Chairman White. Yes, Representative McKenzie, I did notice that the governor in his State of the State address and the budget documents which were reviewed with the Finance Administration, that the governor has set aside a small portion of money which would be equivalent to maybe a third of a new school across the state. I think that number was $15 million, as you said. Those monies would be for a fund so that charter schools could draw down monies in order to make improvements to these very schools that this bill seeks to provide.
Follow up.
Thank you. And there's, I'll make a statement. There's no such fund that the state provides for our public schools. So my question is, as I read this, I'm trying to understand how you get from a charter school, maybe, I don't know I don't even know if it starts with a charter school with a need or a public school with an excess. But however that happens, how does the process go from the need of the charter school or the property to go through to where it becomes available? And that's just, could you walk me through the process? And then my question at the end is, who determines that property now goes up on the roll for sale?
Chairman Williams, before I recognize you, just make one correction, Representative McKenzie. By our state code, a charter school is a fully public school, so I just want to make that distinction. It is a public school. Chairman Williams?
And to further clarify the comments, a part of the TISA formulary, there is a portion set aside for public schools as it relates to the funding of facilities. So the state does, in fact, invest in part through TISA funding monies which go to school fundings. Are the local communities responsible for issuing bonds or construction dollars as it relates to building schools? Yes, they are the governing authority, but it's a both and not an either or. As it relates to your question regarding the how this would happen is, current operations of any municipal government across the state, they have vacant or underutilized buildings that they currently have and know about, and quite frankly, sometimes they have to pay for utilization of security and those kinds of nature, even if they are underutilized or vacant, and sometimes have to maintain utilities on those. Any municipal government can go ahead and put their underutilized or vacant facilities on a list currently. It's their choice to do that. In some instances, local governments may not have the resources to maintain a list or to do a list. What this bill provides for is a clear definition of what underutilized and vacant facilities are, and that list or the audit of list or the inclusion of future properties in a list would be overseen by a request by the charter school through the comptroller's office, which is described in this bill.
Thank you. We now will go to Representative Ritchie.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, sponsor, for the bill. So for clarity, and I got this down there, when we look at what LEAs that are going to be reporting this information back, it's only going to be those that currently have a public charter school in their district currently, right? Correct?
Chairman.
Yes, what this would be is if the comptroller list or that audit by the comptroller's office would only occur if it was triggered by a charter school who wanted to know and understand and get a list if the municipality didn't do it before. It would be unnecessary to make an underutilized or a vacant list if there are no charter schools in that community.
Thank you. Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was trying to get my hands around what you just said. So if there are no charter schools in that district at the time, how does this work?
Chairman.
Yeah, if there are no charter schools in that community, then the list of vacant buildings wouldn't be necessary. It's only in those communities where charter schools currently are would it be necessary to do that. For instance, if there's no charter school in Putnam County, which there's currently not a charter school in Putnam County, if there's not a charter school there, then no charter school could ask to see a list or exhort the comptroller's office to provide them a list for a charter school in Putnam County because no charter school could use it. But if it were in Shelby County, if there were a charter school looking to grow or expand or start their new facilities because they had a charter school there they wanted to do that, if that local municipality didn't provide a list, then the charter schools could get relief from helping assist them find underutilized or vacant buildings through the comptroller's office.
Right. Mr. Chair, do I need to look at you before I continue
No,
on?
sir, I recognize you.
Okay, thank you. So just so I'm clear, so if there was a charter school making application in Putnam County, they couldn't ask for that list?
Yes, sir. You may follow up, Chairman.
I don't think they would because there's no charter school there. An application does not constitute a charter school.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if and I just want to be clear on this because what it sounds like there are certain counties that are exempt from this idea, and you know, and just let me clarify that statement. And you know, so if a charter school is making application, I know they hadn't been approved yet, but they're looking for a building, and they're making application in a county that does not have a charter school. They're exempt. That county is exempt from this, from supplying any a list of surplus property that county may have.
Chairman Williams.
There is no component in this bill that says any county is exempt.
And correct, but by default, if you don't have an existing charter school, you don't have to provide a list. According to based on, and I'm just finding this out, so I'm just trying to get my arms around what you're saying.
Current municipalities do not have to provide a list whether they have a charter school or no. This bill would allow for a trigger if the local municipality didn't provide a list of vacant or underutilized facilities. that would allow them to be able to get that from the comptroller's office.
I'm clear on that part. I guess what I'm trying to understand is why couldn't that same thing be triggered if a charter school is making application?
You recognize?
I can't make you understand the fact that there's no need for a charter, there's no need for a list where a charter doesn't currently exist. If you wanted to request them to make a list, then someone could call the local municipality, and I'm sure that they would provide a list. But there's a mechanism, in the event someone doesn't want to provide a list, this provides a mechanism to get that
Okay.
said list.
Thank you for that. And I apologize. I'm not trying to irritate you at all. I'm just trying to understand what we're doing here. And so let me ask this: where in the bill or in the amendment does it say that the charter has to sell the school back to the district if they're not using it?
Chairman Williams, when you're ready.
Yes, sir. I'm just reading the text of the bill. Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate your patience.
Take your time. And we also have Ms. Fiveash here, who is asked to, if requested, she can speak on it also.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Chairman Williams.
Chairman, yeah, in Section C, it says if during the term or of the lease the charter school closes or ceases using the building, then the building must be placed on the LEA's vacant and underutilized property so it returns to the place it was before.
Thank you, Mr.
Section 5, subsection C.
Yes, sir. I'm reading it also. Thank you. But that's a lease. That's not a sale.
Yeah. Well,
I think and my colleague from the other county mentioned the sale of a property, and you said they would sell it back
Yes.
to at market value.
yes, at the end of that termination, if the charter school doesn't do that, then because of the purchase agreement, they're supposed to sell the property back to the fair market value back to the school system. It would have to be retained because of the agreement in the beginning. It would have to be retained for that. I mean, I'm happy if that is by far the intent. I don't think I see anywhere, to answer your question, I don't see anywhere that addresses it as it relates to a sale, but it does address it as it relates to a lease.
Right, and my reason for asking that is, and this is one of the items I brought up with the lobby team that was bringing this bill is, in theory, you know, a charter could buy a building and then make a profit off of that building that they are forced to, that the LEA is forced to sell them because of first right of refusal. And so that to me, and that's really my angst about the bill is, you know, that the LEAs are being forced to sell these properties, you know, to a charter, and, you know, and it could make a CMO specifically become a real estate brokerage company, you know, buy property, sit on it, and sell it to the highest bidder, you know, after they buy the property. And, you know, they may use it for a school for 6 months. They may use it for a school for a year or you know, a few days or whatever. But now we're this, you know, getting into a space that's real murky for me that the LEA could have utilized to contribute to the LEA's budget, you know, in selling that property. And let me ask you this too.
Can I answer your first question?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
You recognize, Chairman?
Yeah, to answer your first question is that this bill doesn't stipulate that something has to be sold. This bill just stipulates that they have a first right to refuse that property at fair market value. That's all this bill says. Okay. So if for some reason it wasn't financially feasible or viable for that LEA or charter school to do it based upon the fair market value, then the first right is gone and they can sell it to whomever the LEA can sell it to whomever they want to.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you go ahead and follow up, and then let's wrap it up.
Okay. Under first right of refusal, that means that charter school, that CMO has the first right to buy that property. You know, so that LEA wouldn't be able to refuse that charter that purchase because they have the first right to buy the property. But let me ask this question because the chairman is I'm think I'm making his patience a little thin. If a district builds a shiny new school on a property adjacent to their old building, so let's say for instance, you got a school in Williamson County, they build a brand new school, and then they have this surplus building right next door or right across the street from the old school, and because under this law, if Williamson County had a charter school could come and say, hey, I want to buy that building right next door to your school, your new school. They would have to give that charter first right of refusal for that charter to be able to place a charter school literally next door to their brand new school. Am I correct? Under this bill?
If the school system didn't choose to tear down the school, for instance, the example you just gave, in my district it did happen, and we tore down, not the charter school component, but we typically build new schools on existing property, so we save the taxpayer dollar, we build a new existing, and then we tear down the old property. In an effort, in the instance you're talking about, generally speaking, most schools will tear down the old property. If they don't tear down the old property, then either that municipality or government would put that in their underutilized or vacant spaces and put on their list, or the comptroller could put it on the list. If that were the case, then they'd have an opportunity for a first right of refusal or the opportunity to lease it based upon fair market value.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for your patience,
Yes,
Jim. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just kind of give a little clarity. We're talking about underutilized property. If the LEA in Section B, if the LEA decides to sell the school building that the public charter school is leasing, then the public charter school must be provided the first right of refusal. But the first right of refusal, it is at free market value, so they have the option whether or not they will engage. So no one's forcing the LEA to do anything. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's at fair market value, but the way it's set up under this legislation, fair market value is an appraisal from the school district's appraiser and an appraisal from the CMO's appraiser, and then the average of the two is what the value of the property would have to be sold at. And that value of that property, if, in some cases, in the average of the two, well, in the case of the LEA, is going to come under fair market value based on the LEA's appraisal.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Representative Love so we can move on to the conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Williams wanted to look at, I think, page 4, Section B, where it says if the LEA decides to sell the school building that a public charter school is leasing, then the public charter school must be provided the right of first refusal to purchase the school building at or below fair market value for educational purposes, less the value of all rental payments made to the LEA during the term of the lease. What or who determines whether the sale will be at or below fair market value?
Chairman Williams, would you like to address that?
Yeah, as my good friend from Shelby County said, that the setting of that fee is based upon 2 appraisals in the fair market value.
A follow-up.
So I think that's in reference to when it's a sale and there's 2 appraisals. My question is that when it's a lease and the option is at or below fair market value, my question is, what is the mechanism? So if a school is leasing the property and making their payments, and then a conversation about it may be more advantageous for them to purchase it rather than to lease it, and they try to enter an agreement, in the conversation, what is the mechanism to determine whether it's going to be at the fair market value or below the fair market value? I hope I made my question clear on that.
Chairman.
Yes, I'm sure your pastor, you are communicating clearly. I'm maybe not a good parishioner, not listening well, but I will say that I will say it's based upon this section of the code is based upon an establishment of a fair market value previously whenever it went to unvacant, on the list. So the lease rate would have to be based upon a fair market value of whatever it were then. What this simply says that if I'm the LEA and you're the charter school and we agree that the fair market value is $1 million and we're going to base a lease rate based upon that sometime during that period of that lease, that if once that fair market value is established, that fair market would then, you could purchase it then, but the lease payments up to that point would be applied to it. That's what I understand that to say.
Thank you. Let's go to Chairman Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call a question on the bill.
Okay, the question's been called. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of moving House Bill 1191 out to Finance indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes do have it. If you'd like to be registered or no, please see the clerk. Thank you, Chairman Williams, for your time. Item number 2 on the calendar, House Bill 1785 by Representative Greg Martin. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This is a bill that makes government work better by streamlining the process to prepare the internal school fund manual. Currently, the Department of Education, with the assistance of the Comptroller's Office, prepares the internal school fund manual for local systems, and the law requires the Comptroller's Office and the Department of Finance and Administration to approve the manual. F&A rarely, if ever, makes changes to the manual and is unnecessary for this approval process. And with that, I'll stand to take any question.
Okay, with that explanation, committee, on House Bill 1785, any questions? Seeing none, any objection to the question? No objection. All those in favor of moving House Bill 1785 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
Thank you. Item number 3, members, House Bill 1797 by Representative Carringer. You've got a motion and a second. You are recognized, Representative Carringer.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. House Bill 1797 is really a very simple bill, I assure you. It is to allow a student member of the State Board of Education to be counted as present for any time the student misses school for an official state board business, such as board meetings and workshops. And with that, I will stand for questions.
That explanation on 1797, we have Representative Ritchie.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, sponsor for this bill. I know that it was brought up in the K-12 subcommittee, but just so that everybody else, can you share how many folks across the state of our students fall under this category for the State Board of Education that this would end up assisting?
You recognize?
Thank you, Chairman. Absolutely. Thank you, Representative Ritchie, for that question. The State Board board is composed of 9 members that are appointed. One ex officio member, and there's only 1 public high school student member on the State Board.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions of Representative Carringer on House Bill 1797? Any objection? Questions been called? Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Representative, so this bill would straighten up the chronic absenteeism on the state board. Is that what you're saying? Thank you. Touche. Thank you.
Great. The question's been called. All those in favor of moving House Bill 1797 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. It does move out.
Thank you so much, Chairman, and to your fabulous, wonderful committee.
Thank you. Thank you. Item number 4, committee, on your calendar today, House Bill 1697 by Representative Stevens. Stevens, you doing it from your desk or the podium?
I was going to ask if we could roll this 1 week, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, House Bill 1697 is rolled for 1 week. Item number 5, House Bill 1700 by Representative Slater. You've got a motion and a second. I do not see an amendment on your bill. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No amendment. There is no
Okay,
amendment.
you may now explain your bill.
Thank you, committee and Chairman. HB 17 increases security for our students on school buses. This came from local law enforcement in my district and also our school transportation. And then in another district, in another county in my district, confirmed that this would help with increasing security on school buses. This legislation does three things. First, it requires districts to post a notice on each school bus that unauthorized persons are not allowed on the bus. Second, the notice must include contact information in case there is an issue on the bus. And third, and perhaps most importantly, it requires training for school bus drivers related to procedures when an authorized person attempts to enter a school bus. And with that explanation, I stand for questions.
Okay, members, you have the explanation before you. Questions of our sponsor? Seeing none, do I have any objection to the question? All those in favor of moving, seeing no objection to the question, all those in favor of moving House Bill 1700 out to calendar rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, committee.
Brings us to item number 6, House Bill 1803 by Representative Butler. You are recognized. You got a motion and a second. I do not see any amendments, so you may explain your bill.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. This bill seeks to correct a gap in the Tennessee Promise. And so currently, students are not able to utilize their Tennessee Promise funds to go to school during the summertime. And so this bill simply corrects that oversight and allows a student to choose when they want to use that, whether it's a fall or winter semester or a summer semester. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Okay, members, House Bill 1803 is explained by Chairman Butler. Any questions? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving 1803 out to calendar rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Committee.
Members, House Bill 785, and let me roll that one space, brings us to item number 8, House Bill 1632 by Chairman Bolso. You have a motion. You have a second. Now, members, we do have an amendment, but it does not rewrite the bill. So, Chairman Bolso, let's see here. Make sure. You may you got a motion second on your bill. Go ahead and explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this is a bill that simply clarifies who may enforce the provisions of the Age-Appropriate Materials Act of 2022 that was passed by the 112th General Assembly. Under current judicial precedent, someone who is a parent or has a parent of a child who is eligible to attend a public school does have standing to enforce the provisions of the Age-Appropriate Materials Act. All that this bill would do would simply make it express in the code that a parent of a child who attends an LEA or a parent of a child who's eligible to attend an LEA may enforce the provisions of the Age-Appropriate Materials Act. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready for questions.
Okay, members, questions on the bill? We do have one amendment, and it's by me, so I'm going to pass the gavel to Chairman Slater.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second on the amendment. Chairman White, you are recognized on your amendment.
Yes, Chairman, Representative Bolso, this amendment I had just put down. I want to get your advice on it. We've been moving kind of fast, and I've been trying. As I mentioned, I did have some questions. This amendment says it adds that the bill does not create a right to appeal a decision by an LEA. Give me your opinion. My question to you originally was that I thought it was too broad, but you said it is already in the code of the bill, what you're referring to. Would you give me your opinion on your bill?
Sure. And let me respond in two respects. First, this bill that's before the committee today says nothing about what claims may be brought under the Act. It only addresses the question of who may bring the claims. And if I understand the amendment that the chair just read, it actually gets into this issue of what claims may be brought. So it's not something that is within the scope of the bill as it's been brought. Under the current language of the Age Appropriate Materials Act, each LEA is required by Section B2 of the Act to develop a procedure to handle complaints from students, parents, or legal guardians regarding the content of materials in the school library. And so if a parent has a question or a concern or a complaint about a material that's in the library, then the parent is required to follow the procedure that the LEA has established under B2. If the concern is resolved there, then there's no further issue. But subsection C of the Age Appropriate Materials Act says that if the complaint is not resolved to the satisfaction of the complainant under subsection B2, then the school board will address the issue. And then once the school board addresses the issue, it's resolved and there's nothing further to be done.
So you're saying,
You're recognized.
so you're saying that the amendment really is outside the scope of what is already in the bill, correct?
It absolutely is, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
yes.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw the amendment.
Without objection, the amendment is withdrawn.
Keep the gavel.
Keep it.
Oh,
All right.
well, go ahead and finish up. Okay, members, we are on, lose my place, number 8. We're on House Bill 1632 by Representative Bolso. Any further questions? Got Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to be clear, this bill allows anyone who has a child, private school, any private school child can sue the public school because of things that they have in their library, but they can't sue the private school per this ordinance for things that they have, or period, for things that they have in their own library.
Representative Bolso.
Yeah, Representative McKenzie, what you're describing is the law as it currently exists. There's nothing in this bill that changes what you have just described.
Follow up.
Thank you. The way I read the bill, you said if a parent has a school-age kid, whether they attend the school or not, they are now eligible to enter into a lawsuit because of a book that they feel is age inappropriate in the public school. And I'm asking the question, if that's not this bill, please describe what this bill does then clearly, because that's what the words, as we discussed last week, said. And I don't see any amendments. But if that answer is wrong, if this bill does not allow any parent with a kid who's of the age of the school, public school, to sue, that's one. But if they can, if that is the case, can that same parent sue their private school for the same book being in their own library?
Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me respond first in summary and then in detail, Representative McKenzie. In summary, the bill simply clarifies the existing law. It does not in any way give parents additional rights that they do not already have, which brings us to the question of what rights do parents already have. And to answer that question, we go to our Supreme Court precedents from the Supreme Court of Tennessee. And the most recent one that's applicable is in the case of Metropolitan Government of Nashville-Davidson County versus State Board of Education. And in that case, what the Supreme Court said, as it has said in many other cases, is that to have standing to enforce a legal right, the claimant must claim, 1, a distinct and palpable injury, 2, allege that the injury was caused by the allegedly wrongful conduct, and then 3, that the court is in a position to grant relief to address the injury. And courts in Tennessee, when they have applied that three-part test to determine standing under the Age-Appropriate Materials Act, have already held that parents of children in the LEA school or parents of children who are eligible to attend the school have standing. What this bill does is simply codify that result and make it explicitly clear that those same parents have standing to bring a case. And I'll point out that one benefit of the bill is that it actually reduces costs and delays in litigation, because once this is passed, anytime an issue is raised in a court regarding standing, the judge simply needs to look at the statute and see that the statute expressly provides the answer. There's no need to go through sometimes a fact-intensive test, as we just went through from the Supreme Court's desk.
You have a follow-up, Representative?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm probably going to ask about session because, as I brought up last year, I think what we heard is a legal opinion, but we heard a legal opinion by a lawyer who has a lawsuit that is exactly this. So we just heard that as it was fact. And so what I would like to ask legal, does this bill allow, if this bill is to pass, does it open up a law to allow a student, a parent of a student that attends private school, an opportunity to sue based on this change, and they cannot sue their own private school? So I would ask that we go out of session and have that question answered.
Representative Boso?
I'm asking to go out of session. I'm asking to go out of session.
Okay. We're now out of session. Legal, would you like to comment?
He's not legal.
Sean McMinn with the Office of Legal Services, represent McKenzie and committee. The Age-Appropriate Materials Act is limited to library collections consisting of materials in a school library operated by an LEA or a public charter school. So this would not extend to private schools.
Any more questions while we're in legal? You still asking legal while we're out of session?
Yes.
Okay, you may follow up.
I want to ask the first part of that one, so thank you for that answer. But also on the first part, does this bill allow a person who doesn't go to a school to sue that school successfully for what they deem as an age-inappropriate book?
You recognize legal?
Sean McMinn with Legal Services. The bill authorizes persons who have a student that would be eligible to attend a public school to sue for noncompliance with the procedures laid out in the Age-Appropriate Materials Act.
Your representative?
Thank you.
Kinsey? First of all, we go to, any more questions on legal? Okay, you have one on legal. Go, you're recognized.
And I apologize if I missed part of the answer, but to legal, if there is a parent that has a school-age child, but that child goes to a private school, can that parent sue the public schools for age-inappropriate books?
Okay, legal, you're recognized.
Sean McMinn with the Office of Legal Services. Representative Parkinson and committee, yes, I mean, assuming that the student is eligible to attend a public school in the LEA or a public charter school, the bill does give that parent standing to sue for noncompliance with the procedures laid out in the Age-Appropriate Materials Act.
Okay.
Thank you.
Representative Sapicki, you have a question for legal?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You recognize.
Just for clarification here, if I understand the bill right, it's establishing who has standing to sue. Is that correct?
Legal.
Sean McMinn with the Office of Legal Services. Representative Sapicki, yes, that's correct. This is extending statutory standing.
You recognize to
And on a follow-up, just to be clear, the reason for the lawsuit would be not specifically to a book, but in more specific is that person would believe that the process of the Age-Appropriate Materials Act was not followed by the LEA. Not a specific book, so to speak, but maybe somewhere in the process, they believe that the policy was not followed. Is that correct?
recognize legal.
Representative Sapicki and committee, non-compliance with the procedures in the statute would include a policy developed by the LEA or the public charter school, and I can't say with certainty, you know, how far a court might take that.
Representative Sapicki.
And last one, Mr. Chairman. So the policy as written in the Age Appropriate Act, it doesn't say that a book, this specific book is in there. It says if somebody raises a concern about a book, an LEA shall put together a policy on how they're going to address that the concern with that book and how they're going to handle that appeal process, basically, correct?
Legal, you recognize.
Sean McMahon with Legal Services. Representative Sapicki, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Ritchie, do you have a legal question? You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And how I understand this, legal, if you can clarify. So currently in code and law, the lawsuits can be brought up. We're not changing any of that. What this bill is doing is just providing that standing. That is just the one additional step. So it's not giving anybody additional access at lawsuits across the board, whether it's to public school, private school, charter school. It doesn't change any of that. All this is doing is bringing that standing in, correct?
Legal, you recognize.
Committee, Sean McMahon with Office of Legal Services. The bill extends statutory standing. The Age Appropriate Materials Act currently does not address who has standing to sue under the act.
Thank you. Representative Love, do you have a question of legal while we're out of session?
Yes, sir. I have a question of legal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You recognize.
Thank you, sir. As I'm reading this bill, it states, as introduced, gives a parent of a child who attends or who is eligible to attend a school operated by a local education agency or a public charter school standing. To legal, the definition then of eligible is any child, because any public charter school can range from grade 1 through 12, and therefore a parent who has a child that is in pre-K is eligible to attend a charter school. Would that be correct?
Legal, did you get that question? You recognize.
Sean McMahon with the Office of Legal Services. Representative Love, I have not done that research as far as eligibility beyond just who lives in the district. I'd be happy to look into that and to report back to the committee, but I'm just not prepared to answer that question right now.
Representative Love, follow up.
So, if I can, to legal, so we don't really have a definition then of who is eligible, if I'm correct in understanding your response.
Legal, you're recognized.
Sean McMahon with the Office of Legal Services. Yes, Representative Love.
Mr. Chairman, if we don't have a definition of who is eligible, and we're talking about giving standing to the parent of a child who is, well, I'll wait till we get back in
Okay,
session.
that was all the questions of legal, so we're going to go back in session. Representative Love, you want to follow up? Then I'm going to go to Representative Gant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the concern I have, Mr. Chairman, is this. Per the response from legal, we don't have a definition of what eligible means. I'm having difficulty, and I would like to request, if the sponsor is going to do it, that we should roll this for a week as a committee roll to allow legal the time to come back to the committee with a definition of what eligible means. It would be, I think, a bit unfair to the members of this committee to ask for us to vote for a bill where we don't have the definition of eligible when we're talking about parents of a child who's eligible to attend these schools.
Are you addressing that question to the sponsor of the bill?
To the chair and the committee and the sponsor, Mr. Chairman.
I will defer to the sponsor of the bill, House Bill 1632. You may address that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's no reason for a delay. Most words in statutes do not carry a special definition, and that's because the way our laws work, words are interpreted in accordance with what's called their plain and ordinary meaning. And the word eligible is a word that has a plain and ordinary meaning. If a child who's pre-K through 12 has the right to attend a public school in a county, that child is eligible to attend the school. There's no need to delay to determine what the word eligible means. It's a word that has a standard meaning already in the English language.
Representative Gant? Oh, Representative Love, you want to follow up before I move on to Representative Gant?
Well, my concern, Mr. Chairman, is that words do have meaning. And this is not, for me, a simple up and down bill about establishing standing. It's about across the board saying that the parent of a child who is eligible, legal just said that they don't have a definition and would like to come back to us with the definition. This is February the 7th. We're going to be here at least 2.5 months. I think it's just fair to us to ask that we allow legal the time to come back and give us their definition of what eligible means, so we'll all be clear about what we're voting on.
Okay, Representative Love, that's a direct question to the sponsor. Again, I'm going to have to defer to the sponsor. Let me go to Representative Gant.
Thank you, Chairman. Sponsor, thank you for the legislation. And can you clarify that if they're outside of a lawsuit and there is a discrepancy, the last body to make that final decision is the locally elected school board? Is that correct?
That is correct.
And they are locally elected, representing that municipality or school district, correct?
They are in all 95 counties, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question on the bill.
Okay, the question has been called on the bill. Do I have objections? No objections. All those in favor of moving House Bill 1632 out to finance indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. The ayes have it. Please register with the clerk if you like your no vote to register. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Very much. Members, we are, OREA, we're running out of time. We have one bill left. Give me a second to do that. But OREA worked so hard, and we deferred them last week, and they worked so hard. We're going to have to get you in next week, right? Is that what you said? Okay. Okay, we got one last bill. I'm going to give it to the vice chairman to handle, since that is my bill. Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, you can rule me out of order after this, but Charlie Caswell is in the building, our county commissioner. If you'll stand, Commissioner Caswell, and y'all make him feel welcome. Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I'm out of order.
No out of order there. He is a fine, outstanding gentleman. Let me give the gavel to Vice President Slater.
All right, members, we are on item number 7, House Bill 785 by Chairman White. Do I have a motion? Properly motioned. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, members. Before I get started, I am going to take this bill off notice right now. We're working on things through, we'll put it back on when we're able to get some things. Let me give you the reason that I'm running this bill. I think it's a good bill and very important. It's called Promising Futures. And the reason I took this on a couple of years ago, started working on it, as I go around the state, one of the critical issues is we do not have enough child care, and or if we do, it's very expensive. The average is about $35,000 a year, which that keeps so many of our Tennesseans out of the workforce. One of the child givers would have to stay home, which I'm told it gives about a $3 billion economic hit to our state. So we're working on some logistics on things with our Department of Education, our Department of Human Services, and I hope when I bring this back, but this is something that we really are passionate about, and we're also trying to combine the child care with early child literacy. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I do take this bill off notice at this time.
Without objection, House Bill 785 is taken off notice. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.
We can't adjourn just yet. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to reconsider our actions on, which one? On House Bill 1191, and we'll go to Representative Gant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we reconsider our actions on House Bill 1191 to go to GovOps and not Finance.
Got a motion and a second on that. So moved. Goes to that committee. Is that all? Okay, without objection, we are now adjourned.